Alright guys, Darren from FBA Elite and welcome back to another video. So throughout 2024, I've noticed more than ever, there seems to be videos from different Amazon influencers and gurus saying that they are stopping selling on Amazon, that Amazon FBA is dead, that Amazon FBA is no longer worth it. And I can understand for a new seller who is considering starting Amazon FBA, this can seem super confusing. So I thought it would be helpful for me to just sit down, just do a video on this, talk about why this may be happening and what it potentially means for new sellers. So I think there are 4 different reasons why this is happening. I'm going to talk about all of them in this video, and hopefully it will provide some clarity for you guys that are on the fence about whether you should be considering Amazon FBA in 2024 and beyond or not. So the first thing I want to talk about is that a lot of people, a lot of the influencers, a lot of the gurus, and a lot of new sellers, they think that Amazon FBA or Amazon is oversaturated. And I completely understand how they can come to that conclusion. If you go to Amazon and you search for pretty much any product, even the most obscure product you can think of, there will be hundreds, if not thousands, of products in the search results. And often, a lot of these niches have been bottomed out by Chinese sellers that are just selling at the cheapest possible price. So to, I guess you would say, the uninitiated, it does seem like Amazon is oversaturated, but there's 2 big things you have to keep in mind when assessing whether a business opportunity is oversaturated. Number 1, what is it oversaturated with? So Amazon is clearly oversaturated with Chinese sellers. And number 2, it is clearly oversaturated with cheap, rubbish products. That's why companies like Temu have been able to launch, because they're selling cheap, rubbish products. But just as with, for example, supermarkets, you might have Aldi, Lidl, Asda, etc. But you still have companies like Marks and Spencer's and Waitrose thriving with their more premium value goods. And this is one thing you need to learn and understand, not just about Amazon, but to do with any business that sells a product or service, is that there is a big difference between price and value, or in Amazon's case, perceived value. So if you go to pretty much any product on Amazon, you'll see lots of people selling it as cheaply as possible. There's also often some sellers selling at a much higher price. And as a UK seller selling on Amazon UK, you're always going to have an advantage over Chinese sellers. Chinese sellers' only weapon is price. If we're talking about legal things, yes, some sellers will get up to nefarious tactics, but that is a separate video. But in terms of overall weapons, all they've got is price. Whereas as a UK seller, you understand the UK market and what people in the UK like, want, prefer versus a Chinese seller does. So what your opportunity is capitalizing on the value, the perceived value of a product. So to give you an example, let's say a Chinese seller is selling a product for £15 and that's the cheapest product in the niche, and that is always going to capture a certain amount of traffic and sales because it's the cheapest product. You could come to that same niche and potentially sell a product at £20 or £25 if you add value to that product. And sometimes it can be real tangible value, and other times it can just be perceived value. The key thing you're trying to get across to the customer is that you have a superior product. Now that can be just a simple thing such as maybe bundling some extra bits into the product or developing some premium packaging, especially if it's a giftable item, or you may want to develop the product further. You're going to add some functions or features that bring additional benefits to the customer. And if you can do that, then your product will have higher value or higher perceived value. You can ask a higher price and you can still sell well in a niche where there's a Chinese seller selling at the bottom price, and you can be the Waitrose and the Marks and Spencer's of that niche and charge higher, and that's where your profit margin will come from. So yes, absolutely, Amazon is oversaturated. It's oversaturated with cheap, rubbish products and rubbish sellers. It's not oversaturated with good sellers, with good high quality premium products where you can make a real decent chunk of profit if you get things right. Now, number 2, the other thing I'm seeing a lot is that influencers are moving on to other opportunities. So for example, Amazon FBA, I guess the buzz around it has slowly been dying down over the past few years, and you have things like TikTok Shop popping up. And I'm seeing more and more of the influencers that are moving away from Amazon, moving towards TikTok Shop. And there's other opportunities as well. And I completely get it, because the barrier to entry to something like that is a lot lower. there's a lot more traffic for it. So for the influencers that do depend on course sales to make their money, it makes sense to go and sell TikTok courses rather than Amazon courses. And for me, you guys know, I have an Amazon FBA course and I do Amazon FBA mentorship, and I'll link to in the pinned top comment. But the majority of my income still comes from actually being an Amazon FBA seller. And there's going to be people watching this video, especially if you're watching me for the first time, saying, well, if you're making so much money on Amazon, why do you need to sell courses? Why do you need to do mentorship? And why do you need to do YouTube? I mean, and that's a great question, and I completely understand why you'd ask that. And the answer is this, and not many other influencers or gurus are going to tell you this, is that you cannot trust Amazon. Amazon are the worst business partner in the world. They might appear to have great customer service, but from a seller perspective, they do not care about sellers at all. The seller support system is absolutely shocking, and Amazon are continuing to squeeze sellers again and again and again, which we're going to come back to in the next point. So I learned very early on in my Amazon FBA journey that I couldn't fully trust Amazon FBA. And if you go back through my back catalog from videos all the way back to 2018, you can see my Amazon story. You can see when instances, for example, where I had a product suspended and stuff like that. So I learned very early on, I cannot trust them. I need to diversify my income. So the majority of my income still comes from Amazon FBA sales, but I also have courses and mentorship and a few other bits going on just to diversify. And it really helps that when you're working with someone like Amazon, which is a very faceless association that makes big changes that can have a real impact on you, your business, and what you're selling, that if you've got additional income, it takes away a lot of the stress. It allows you to make the right decisions. It allows you to not react too emotionally, as you're not 100% dependent on the income. So coming back to this actual overall point, there are a lot of so-called influencers that are moving away from selling Amazon FBA or promoting Amazon FBA just because it's easier to promote TikTok or something like that, because the barrier to entry is lower and because there's much more interest in that at the moment. But you shouldn't use it as a yardstick to measure which business opportunity has the greatest potential for you. Like, for example, over the past few weeks, you've probably seen reports around people trying to get you to buy, or influencers trying to get you to buy cryptocurrency or some sort of meme coins or meme stocks. That doesn't mean they're good or bad business opportunities just because people or more people are talking about them. It just means at that particular time that is getting coverage. So you need to look into all of the business opportunities that you come across and make your own decision. It's not a numbers game. It's not who is talking about it the most. It's what is the right business opportunity for you. So moving on to point 3, and this really follows on from the middle of point 2, which is Amazon squeezing sellers over and over again. Every single year, we see a new round of Amazon FBA fee increases, which us sellers just have to suck up, and they eat away at our profit margins. But over the past few months, we've seen the introduction of 2 new fees in particular. So not only are the kind of your fulfillment fees and your referral fees increasing, which is what we've been paying for years, they've introduced 2 new fees. And there are a lot of sellers not happy about this. And that is, I get it. I really do. I think these fees are absolutely disgusting. Now, thankfully, they haven't been applied to the UK, but they may very well come to the UK, because we've seen in the past often stuff that's rolled out in America does come to the UK eventually. So these 2 fees are what I call placement fees and low inventory fees. So the placement fees, when you send your goods to Amazon, because Amazon then distribute those goods across their Amazon fulfillment centers. So in the UK, they've got many fulfillment centers. They're now charging customers to do that. And then they have a low inventory fee as well, which means if your stock gets too low for a particular product, and there are certain exceptions, and this is still a liquid situation, and Amazon are kind of changing the T&Cs all the time at the moment. But if you fall below 30 days of stock, Amazon are going to start charging you fees for having low stock on a good selling product, right? So I get why sellers are angry about that. And I'm not going to try and defend Amazon at all, because their fee scheme is disgusting. They charge sellers far too much, especially when I can compare to what they used to charge 5-6 years ago to what they're charging now, which means it's more important than ever when you're doing your Amazon FBA product research to find products with good margins, to add real value, real perceived value to a product, so you can command a premium, so you have a really healthy profit margin to help offset all of these over-the-top fees that are going to continue to grow as Amazon goes on. So like I say, I'm not defending it, but I know that's the game, and I'm choosing to play the game And in order to play the game, I need to make sure I have big fat margins to work with so that I can afford all the fees, so I can afford PPC, and I can afford to pay for returns and all of that without losing, a night's sleep, purely because I've got enough margin and I just expect to lose a certain percent of that margin in order to have this relatively passive income once the business is up and running. And if you're wondering if I still believe, how much I still believe in this model, well, if you've watched any of my videos, probably towards the end of last year, I was talking about helping my wife start her own Amazon FBA business and find and launch her first product. And I invested £8,000 in her first product. And there is no way I would be investing £8,000 in inventory if I still did not fully believe in this model. And I wouldn't sell a course or mentorship if I did not believe in this model still, because it's just not the way I am. The morals for me would be stronger than the money that I can make from doing it. So I'm not sitting here saying to you that Amazon FBA is the perfect business model in 2024, but it is certainly not dead. There are certainly still opportunities to make money on Amazon at the moment. And one of the other reasons, this is I guess the fourth reason, that I see a lot of people giving up on Amazon FBA or saying that Amazon FBA isn't a viable model, is purely because they just can't find their first product. So if you're struggling to find your first Amazon FBA product now, I'm going to pop up a method that I used recently, I think, to find 8 products in 30 minutes. So give that video a watch, click on the video that's popping up in front of me now, and I'll see you guys over there.